Unit 3, Introduction. So let's take a moment to look at the course schedule and see where we are. So right here is where we are, Unit 3, Your Goals as a Writer. Unit 3 is a 1-week unit, and the main task is to work on Project 3, the Personal Publishing Goals Worksheet. I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute. Now in Unit 2, which we've just completed, you should have gotten some insight into the different kinds of publishers and the different types of books they publish. And then looking ahead to Unit 4, you will do some research to learn more about your audience and about some of the books already published related to your topic. Then in Unit 5, you will work on developing the first draft of a book proposal that will be due just before spring break. So we'll look in more detail at the elements of a book proposal soon enough. So that's kind of where we are and where we're going. Now, Unit 3, Your Goals as a Writer, is all about you. It's your chance to define the project you want to work on for the remainder of this course. Now, don't worry. Your topic will develop and evolve as we go along. You really don't have to have every last detail figured out yet. Now, Project 3, the Personal Publishing Goals Worksheet, will ask you to think and write about some pretty big questions. The worksheet is based on some of the questions from Fawzia Burke's book, plus some of my own. So let's jump over and take a look at the Project 3 template, and let me just give you a little bit of insight into that project. Okay, so this is the Project 3 worksheet. It's called the Personal Publishing Goals Worksheet. And I know you can read, I don't mean to insult your intelligence, I just want to highlight a few things that I think are important and to give you kind of a heads up on some things to be thinking about this week as you're working on this project. So as it says here, the purpose of this project is to define some personal writing and publishing goals for this class and potentially beyond. Project 3 will help you prepare for developing the book proposal and portfolio that you will be working on for the remainder of this course. So that's the purpose of Project 3. The audience for the project is primarily you, yourself. Your instructor, me, and your classmates will be a secondary audience, and we can provide a sounding board to help shape and clarify your ideas. But it's really this is really a self-directed kind of a planning tool project this week. And as it says here, be honest about where you are at the moment as we begin work on a long-term project. You do not have to have a clearly defined proposal ready to share with an editor. I'm sure you don't. That's okay. That comes later. This project, Project 3, is about defining a starting point and identifying where you want to go next. And then it lists a few resources. The following resources will help you get started, and they provide important insight and ideas about the publishing process. Particularly important here is Fawzia Burke. The first phase, she calls it a phase, not a part. Phase 1 of her book, Online Marketing for Busy Authors. Phase 1 is called Getting Organized, and it's chapters 1 through 6. That sounds like a lot, but as you will see, it's a super accessible, super friendly, readable book, and the chapters are really short. So chapters 1 through 6 is really not as daunting as it sounds. And then related background reading from Jane Friedman's wonderful book, The Business of Being a Writer, chapter 2, The Art of Career Building. So read those, and if you haven't already, please do listen to the audio interview with Fawzia Burke. I think it amplifies and adds life to some of the points in her book. So that's the background. All right, so with that in mind as the context and purpose and audience and so forth, let's look at the template itself. This template is based on just a handful of really big questions. Question 1, how would you describe your personal brand or identity as an author? Second question, how would you describe your ideal readers? Third question, what genre are you thinking of writing? The fourth question, who are your author role models? And then the fifth question is, what are your next steps? So again, I said these were big questions. Again, I don't expect you to have finished answers, but let me go back and detail these questions a little bit further and give you some additional tips. So this first question, how would you describe your personal brand or identity as an author? And it says below that, think about your knowledge, expertise, passions, and interests. What topics do you know about? What problems can you solve for your readers? Note, here's the key point. The worksheet in Chapter 1 of Online Marketing for Busy Authors can help you with this section. So let's take a look at that worksheet for a second. Let's jump over here. This is my Kindle app. This is Fawzia Burke's book. Hopefully you've obtained a copy of this now. We're going to go over here to what she calls Phase 1, Getting Organized, Chapter 1, Personal Branding 101. And this last sentence that's highlighted on the page here is kind of her whole theme. She's very optimistic. She says, there has never been a better time to be an author because for the first time, authors have direct access to their readers. So do read this chapter. It's really good. And let me show you what I mean. There's this worksheet here, right here. Questions to help you identify your brand. And she basically breaks it down. So I just have one big question, and she breaks it down into a series of smaller questions that I think you could work through to get to that answer to the big question, like what skills do you possess that you can speak honestly and confidently about? What do people say about you? What is your greatest strength? What are your passions, and so forth? So it's a nice little kind of journaling assignment. And then at the end, it shows you a sample brand statement that she wrote about herself. And she wrote the following: I help authors and publishers promote their books online. I have 20 years of experience, which allows me to advise my clients and readers on the most effective and efficient methods for building their brand and promoting their books. I am enthusiastic and passionate about my work. Some even call me a true believer. My curiosity and optimism has made me a natural risk taker and has kept me ahead of the curve. My mission is to demystify online marketing and give practical jargon-free advice. I like that last sentence. It's kind of a personal mission statement. So that's what I'm looking for over here on question 1, is basically a 1-paragraph personal mission statement about you as a writer, as an author, as a person, as you see it today. Again, this will change. None of this is written in stone. It's just an exercise, but it will really help you kind of identify some of your strengths and begin thinking about the person and the identity that you want to project through your writing and publishing. So that's question number 1. Again, that in itself could be a bit of a project, and I encourage you to spend some time working through Fauzia's worksheet to come up with that kind of personal mission statement about yourself. Now, related to that is the second question here: how do you describe your ideal readers? As a writer, of course, you're not writing in a vacuum. You're writing for an audience. So this question asks you to describe the audience you want to reach as specifically as you can. Be realistic and think about specific people and groups of people who you want to read your work. And remember what Fauzia says: there's no such thing as everybody.com. There's no such thing as a general reader. There are very specific readers, and the more focused you can be, ideally, in the long run, I think the better off you will be. You may write for multiple audiences, but writing for 2 or 3 specific audiences is much better than trying to please everybody, which you just can't do. Again, note the worksheet in Chapter 3 can help you with this section. So let's go back and look at this worksheet in Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is called Know Thy Readers, and she has right here, questionnaire identifying your audience. Think about your readers. Who are they? Your inclination may be to answer everyone, but remember, there is no, everyone.com. Just think about yourself as an audience for a minute. Do you read every type of book? Do all the magazine categories on newsstands appeal to you? Probably not. So she has this, what she calls reader profile worksheet. Again, it's a series of short, simple questions that you can work through to end up with a reader profile. And the reader profile is what you should include in Project 3. So here's what Fauzia came up with for her reader profile. My readers are authors or aspiring authors who are proactive about promoting their books. They are curious about online possibilities. My reader demographic is most likely an equal number of men and women, and in the age range of 35 and older, and probably college educated. My readers have dabbled in social media like Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. They are fulfilling a lifelong dream to tell their stories or to help others by sharing their knowledge. They are awesome, and they are very busy. So that's the nice way that she captures this reader profile and helps to imagine and bring forth in words the reader that she's trying to write for her book. Okay, so that's what you do for the second question, is come up with that 1-paragraph reader profile. And then the last 3 questions don't have worksheets in Fauzia's book associated with them, and they're more straightforward questions. What genre are you thinking of writing? And just a reminder that because this course is taught in the rhetoric and writing department, we no fiction, no novels, and no poetry. We're limited to nonfiction topics. That's not very limited. There's a wide range of stuff. So you need to think about the genre, the type of book that you imagine yourself writing, whether that's a how-to guide, how to take great photographs of your children, a scholarly monograph on horror films, for example, a work of creative nonfiction, maybe, essays and pieces that you've written yourself, a historical narrative, a cookbook, a personal memoir. Any kind of nonfiction genre that you want to write is perfectly fine. And you may not have a super precise definition yet, but start to begin thinking about what kind of nonfiction genre do you want to write and think about as your imaginary book proposal for this class. Okay, so begin thinking in terms of genre. And then author role models. You'll see in a week or two why this is important, but you want to start thinking about 3 or 4 authors who write books kind of similar to the one you want to write. So, for example, I'm interested in online teaching and learning. Michelle Pacansky-Brock is an author who writes kind of books that I read and books that I really emulate and have really influenced me. So I would list her as one of my 3 author role models. So 3 or 4 authors who have published on topics related to yours or who inspire you in some way. Ideally, at least some of these authors will have web pages or an online presence on social media that you can follow. So these are people that you're going to kind of literally make your role model and try to learn from in terms of how they write, how they promote themselves, how they publish their books, and so forth. So identify 3 or 4 authors that are on topics related to yours. Just list their names here, or list their websites and URLs for their social media profiles if you can find those things. And then finally, the last question here is, what are your next steps? We're at the beginning of this process, not the end. So I want you to think about these questions. Based on the readings and course content so far, what do you want to learn and research next in order to begin to develop your publishing project and feel more confident about it? What do you need to learn about the market for your topic and project? What do you need to learn about your audience? And then next week, when we move into Unit 4, we will start doing some of that research to learn more about our market and to learn more about our audience. So begin thinking about what else do I need to know if I'm really going to write a book proposal about this topic? So that's some background and some context for you. Hopefully that gives you a little more guidance as you dive into this project. I hope it's a lot of fun. It really is a chance to really kind of nail down at least the basic outlines of the kind of work that you're going to be focusing on basically for the rest of this course. So good luck with this project. Send me an email if you have any questions, and I'll see you online. Thanks for listening.